You are traveling to another train of thought, one not from this century and challenging the status quo. You are now entering the paradigm shift.
Well, good Wednesday morning. It's usually a Monday when I say good morning, but today, because of some other things, I didn't do a show Monday. We did do a Wasatch report on Monday, and we are doing a Wasatch report this morning, immediately, well, not immediately following the show, because as usual, because I'm producing her show, I had to cut out a few minutes early because I have to reset everything and get everything set up for Suzanne's show. So this show will probably end somewhere right around 9:45 of is about where I usually am out of here. I usually stop blabbering on about whatever I'm talking about on that particular day. But I have a good time doing this. Am I the best radio host in the world? Probably not. There's probably a couple that are a little better than me. But we have a good time. And you know what? We're passionate about what we talk about. So after this show, Suzanne's going to be on. Don't forget, we have other shows. We have the other side with Justin and Mike. We have our good friend Sean Hoffine. We play his shows, of which I need to get his last Sunday show posted back up so it's in the playlist. We have Mike Meharry of the 10th Amendment Center, a bunch of his podcasts. He has, we have I don't know, dozens of them. Yeah, because they're about 10 minutes long, so we have about 6 in an hour. So we have, again, Norman Mike Meharry, but he's doing with the Shift Gold, Friday Gold wrap-up. So we have a whole host of shows. There's always something playing on the Cerberus Radio Network when we're not live. And a lot of the replays are still going as well. So if you don't get a chance to listen to the show now, if I have time, again, I don't always have time to get everything done. I'll get Suzanne's up. It'll replay tonight at 8 p.m. Mine, if I have time to get it up, I'll get it up. But again, my work schedule, I have to go to work. Unfortunately, I can't do this full time. I would love to. But at this point, it is what it is. We do shows when we are available. And today I was available. And Suzanne is going to have a show as well. Let me start out in Oklahoma. Suzanne had him on and did an interview, which was a great interview, and I really should put that in the replay list on the evenings when Suzanne replays. Suzanne replays every night at 8 p.m., except Sunday night. I should put that back in. That was a great interview with Dan Fisher. So I'll look that one up, and I'll probably get it back in there. But I wanted to talk about Dan for just a moment because there was an election. There was a primary election. There was primary elections all over. I'm sure Suzanne will talk about hers. I won't talk about that one. I won't talk about that one. But Dan Fisher ran, and from the outset, Dan Fisher was a severe long shot. He was a relative nobody. I mean, there were people that knew of Dan, but he was a relative nobody. And he ran on abolition. He was to abolish human abortion. And we support that 100%. I mean, Dan's campaign changed me. I used to call myself pro-life. But then Dan's campaign came along and changed my view on that whole subject. Because what is pro-life? Pro-life could mean a whole bunch of things. And it does. Because there are some people that call themselves pro-life that are abolitionists. I probably was an abolitionist all along, as far as that goes, other than calling myself that. But then you have the pro-life spectrum. You have a bunch of people all the way down that are good with murdering a baby up to 20 weeks. I mean, murder's fine as long as it's before some arbitrary day. See where that is? I see the problem with that. So you got pro-life. It's just like the pro-Second Amendment. So what does that mean? Well, you have people that are pro-Second Amendment. Well, if you have people like Suzanne and I who take the Bill of Rights as it was intended by the framers, because if you read the preamble, there's no other way to take the Bill of Rights other than it's a restriction on the general government, the federal government. So you got us that say that every federal firearms law is unconstitutional because the Bill of Rights absolutely made sure that it was crystal clear that it was beyond the scope of their delegated powers. Yet we have the NRA that demands a Second Amendment right. So what does that mean? That means all of a sudden then, if you make it something government's giving you, it's something they can regulate, they can take away. So you got this whole idea of pro Second Amendment. So I'm pro liberty, pro limiting government to the absolute most you can limit it. We need as very little government as we can possibly get away with. And what do we have now? We have way too much. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But back to Dan Fisher. So Dan ran on abolition, and the other part, the second half of that is because it goes hand in hand with the abolition thing. He ran as a state sovereignty candidate. So what does that mean? So that means that when if he were elected governor and he got the legislature to pass an abolition bill, he would have signed it, guaranteed somebody would have sued in a federal court, and it would have gone to the Supreme Court. What would Dan Fisher have said? Because he was a state sovereignty guy. He was a federalist. See, here, this is the thing. Forget state sovereignty. He was a federalist. What does that mean? That means that the state of Oklahoma could pass that law, and it's their business. It is none of anyone else's business. Someone in California, none of your business. Someone in New York, none of your business. It's Oklahoma. So that's the whole thing. He was a federalist. So Dan garnered, I don't know. I'm thinking it was somewhere around 7%. He got around 36,000 votes. And you know what? That's disappointing. The establishment people are going to be in a runoff. It's going to be between someone that's pro-life, so they're good with murdering people up to babies up to 20 weeks. That's the whole difference. Again, back to that subject. And they're going to be pro-Second Amendment. They're okay with government regulating your natural rights, just as long as it's them regulating your natural rights. So we have Dan Fisher, federalist, and all the rest, nationalist. They're good with the national government. They're good with the national government ruling the states. And we had that discussion the other day with Suzanne about nationalism as opposed to federalism. And that's pretty much what Madison and Hamilton wanted. They wanted a national government. They wanted national veto of the states. And what did we end up with? That very thing. So the Constitution pretty much failed what it was intended to do. Supposedly, according to the Federalists, it's a limiting document. They are limited by what they can do. Well, is that in fact what we got? No. So anyway, back to Dan Fisher. Again, I keep going off on these tangents, which is not unusual. For those of you that listen, you know that I tend to get off on these tangents periodically. So Dan Fisher got about 36,000 votes. Today, I'm sure out there, those Fisher supporters, there's a number of them that are very disappointed. And at some level, there is some disappointment because a lot of people put their hopes in the fact that Dan Fisher might have a shot at becoming governor. The fact of the matter is right now, in our environment, he was the true long shot because the vast majority of people, the public schools have done a wonderful job in creating good socialists. Most of your conservatives are fine with their level of socialism. They think they're conserving, whatever. I don't know what they think they're conserving. USA, 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 bomb, 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 kill people over the world. I don't know what they're conserving. But one thing's for sure. They're conserving socialism. They're good with their level of big government. long as their guys, because the guys, the red team, as long as the red team's in charge, their level of their socialism's good. If the blue team's in charge, that socialism's bad. So there is this level of disappointment because we hoped that we could push him over the top. Obviously, I couldn't vote there, but I shared his posts constantly, hoping that family and friends in Oklahoma would see them and hopefully vote for Dan Fisher. So, yes, today there's a little bit of disappointment. On the other hand, I looked at it a little different this morning when I was thinking about this. Dan Fisher is not Jesus. He's not a savior. He's just a man. But I'm just do a little comparison here. Jesus called 12 men. Just 12. And those 12 men impacted the world. Dan Fisher, one man. 36,000 people. He impacted 30. Beyond that, that's the 36,000 that voted for him. Beyond that, think about the scores of people all over the other 49 states that were impacted. I'm in Pennsylvania. The Fisher campaign changed my mindset. I don't use the same terminology when I talk about abortion. I mean, I've already been on board with the Federalist mindset, but as far as the abolition, so he's changed my way of approaching things. And I know there's lots of listeners, a lot of listeners that are listening this morning. You were changed by his campaign. A lot of you have changed your approach to abortion. A lot of you, hopefully, have changed your approach to federalism. So the impact that one man had is far-reaching. It's not just in Oklahoma. And 36,000 might seem like a small number today. But if those 36,000 are as passionate for the next 2 years as they have been now and continue to be passionate, just think, if each one of those hit another 36,000, I mean, think of how this grows. There is sadness today, but we have to look to the future. This was a starting point. Who else? What other candidate around these 50 states was saying what Dan Fisher said? Maybe one or two, but they certainly didn't get the interest that Dan Fisher did. So today, yes, sad day. But the future can be changed by those 36,000 voters, can reach a lot of people. And in 2 years, I pray and I hope that we see dozens of candidates running Dan Fisher campaigns for the legislature, I don't know if you have a Senate or what your two branches are, but for the Senate and for the legislature, for your House. And equally so, I pray that we see Fishers rising up in all 50 other states because of one campaign. This one man made a difference. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's not just fall asleep again for another 2 years. There's real excitement here. Let's just keep it going. So today, yes, maybe be a little sad, but tomorrow it's back to work. We need to keep moving forward. That's why Suzanne and I do this. We're not getting paid. It's a lot of work. You'd be surprised the amount of hours I spend with media files, editing things, putting things on SoundCloud, putting things on Radio Co. It's a lot of work. Why we do it? Because the message is important. Abolition, federalism. These are important subjects. Federalism is important because it's all about liberty. If we don't have liberty, we are subjects. And that's what I'm saying. We need a lot less government. We need to start working today to start getting those candidates into office that will defend liberty, not defend the status quo, not defend what we've been doing for the last 150 years. It's time to start becoming federalists. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. I'm going to change gears now because I said to Suzanne when we were talking before my show, I do so much political stuff. I just wanted to start off with a story that deals with a little bit of the prepping thing. Real-time news from Birmingham. One shot, one assaulted, East Birmingham home invasion. One person was shot, another assaulted in a home invasion Sunday, June 24th, in East, I believe it's Birmingham. I got to turn the page. East Birmingham. This is by a Carol Robinson. An investigation is underway after 2 people were injured during a home invasion Sunday night in eastern Birmingham. The incident happened at a house about 9:15 p.m. on Linwood Street at 5 Mile Road, said Birmingham Police Sergeant Brian Shelton. The victims were a male and a female. East Precinct officers arrived on the scene to find one victim with a gunshot wound to the neck. A second victim had been assaulted, but the nature of the assault wasn't immediately available. Shelton said the extent of the victim's injuries were not yet known. Both were taken to UAB Hospital. He said the injuries were sustained during a burglary attempt, a burglary of an occupied residence. An arrest has not been announced, but police said the suspect was not among the wounded. The story will be updated as more information becomes available. So, often people, we talk about prepping here a lot. We talk about situational awareness. And this is becoming a situation everywhere. This isn't just in Birmingham. About a year ago, we had a man killed, maybe 30 minutes north of me here, in a home invasion. Someone broke into his house, shot him, and killed him. He was involved in other crimes and was looking for, I think, a vehicle, and he took that vehicle and fled. That was the whole intent. So why are we talking about this? Because as in our mindset of situation awareness, our mindset of preparedness, being a prepper has gotten a bad name. It doesn't have to mean you're stockpiling tons of food and expecting the zombies to start taking over the world. What it does mean is that you think about potential problems, whether it's hurricanes on the East Coast, whether it is tornadoes in the Midwest, or earthquakes in California. You look at your situation and you get your mind around the idea of being prepared. Now, so home invasions, how are you prepared? Well, the fact of the matter is, even in my house, even at this very moment, sitting here in my house, I have a firearm on me. Why? Not because I'm afraid that someone's going to break in, but I'm prepared. These people here, there was a home invasion. The guy was shot. The female was assaulted. And the suspects got away, and the guy's injured. They weren't thinking about the possibility of a home invasion. So even right now, I'm on the radio. So what is my door to the house? It's locked and it's deadbolted because I'm not out there. I can't watch the door. I'm not in that part of the house where the door is. So, folks, this is just a break from talking about politics, but wrap your head around the idea that, even at your house, you need to be prepared. You need to have first aid stuff around. If you get injured, if you cut yourself with a knife, getting ready for lunch, you need to have first aid stuff that can take care of a serious wound. You need to perhaps have a firearm handy to protect yourself. If it's in a safe, and someone breaks into your house, a home invasion, what good is that gun doing you in the safe? Not very much. A firearm can be handled safely around the house, even with young children around. It just has to stay on your person. So again, that I don't want to beat this subject to death, but we need to think about safety in our homes. We got to be perfectly aware that just because we're not out of the house doesn't mean that the dangers outside the house won't enter the house. So, okay, enough of that for this morning. So we talked about Dan Fisher at the outset of the show. Now we've talked about a little prepping just to kind of get our head out of the political stuff for a few minutes. I want you to think back. Oh, it's probably been a year. I'm not quite sure how long it's been. I didn't look it up again, and I didn't print out any stories on it. But if you remember back, you had that big shooting where Scalise was shot at that congressional baseball game, and there was others wounded there. But there was an attempt to kill a bunch of Republicans. And then you have, this is from the National Review, I believe. I don't use them often, but it's called Days of Rage, and it's by David French. There's no limiting principle on leftist fury. American politics, this is called Days of Rage. American politics is taking a dangerous turn, or should I say, American politics is taking a dangerous turn again. In the space of a few days last week, leftist protesters individually targeted Trump aide Stephanie Miller, taunted Secretary of Homeland Security Kristen Nielsen in a restaurant and at her home, mocked and allegedly spat at Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi at a movie theater, and denied service to Trump Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders at a restaurant in Lexington, Virginia. Then on Saturday, Democrat Congresswoman Maxine Waters said this. Make no mistake, this is okay. Somehow I lost something here. Something got cut off. But anyway, she was calling for attacks on Trump administration. If you see anybody, okay, maybe it was this tweet. Maxine Waters calls for attacks on Trump administration. If you see anybody from the cabinet, this is a quote, in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and push back on them. You tell them you're not welcome anymore anywhere. Make no mistake, this is provocative rhetoric. Angry, in-your-face confrontation dramatically increases the chances of violence. Put people in close proximity, yelling and spitting, and public officials will rightly start to fear that they are in physical danger. While millions of Americans don't remember that Bernie Sanders supporters last year tried to assassinate a significant portion of the GOP Congress, you can be assured that not a single Republican in Washington has forgotten. They can never be sure that a screaming person in front of them doesn't mean in them physical harm. I'm going to take a break right there in this article. We have seen increased violence by the left over the last 10 years. The riots in Ferguson, the riots in Baltimore, the shooting of the attempted, and that story is absolutely correct. That was an attempted assassination of GOP lawmakers at that baseball game. Fortunately, the police were able to stop the guy before he was able to accomplish his goal of killing a bunch of congressmen and senators. Why did I bring this up? Why did I bring this article up? Because it's becoming apparent that there is a massive, deep divide between those that wish to live in peace and have liberty and those that want socialism. These people are socialists. They're Marxists. They want control. They will take control any way they can. If it's shooting a bunch of congressmen, they'll do it. If they'll riot, if they need to riot in the streets, they'll do it. See, there's the difference between people that enjoy liberty, because people enjoy liberty, they're fine with. Here's the deal. I'm not for gay marriage. Marriage is a church institution, and that's between the people and their church. Government has nothing to do with it. should have nothing to do with it. They do, because it's about money. It's a way to separate you from your money. But as a person that wants liberty and as little government as possible, if you are two guys and your church will marry you, that's between you and God. I'm not going to, it's not my business. As long as you're not affecting my liberty, forcing Christian bakers to make you a cake, to make your point, to force them to take away their liberty, then I have a problem. Do I support gay marriage? No. But again, liberty. We want as little government as possible. That's the difference between people that want true liberty. And see, this is where I broke with the Libertarian Party, because what's the Libertarian Party want? When Johnson ran, I think Weld was his running mate in the last presidential election. What was their stance on gay marriage? They were good with government forcing it. So how is that? That's not libertarian. See, that's my problem with the Libertarian Party. On the outside, they say, well, we're, live and let live. On the inside, they push their form of big government. It's just another party. You got the Republicans push their form of socialism. You got the Democrats push their form of socialism. And you got the Libertarian pushing their form of socialism. There's the problem. So what's the deal with this whole thing with Maxine Waters calling for violence? Well, here is the issue. I don't see how we can peacefully coexist any longer. So what does that mean? I mean, I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for shooting. I'm not calling for civil wars. I'm not calling for revolutions. But it is getting time to start thinking and start talking and start getting serious about liberty and the fact that perhaps we should separate. Because quite honestly, I have nothing in common with this woman. Nothing in common. What she wants is more control. Let's go here. Dianne Feinstein wants to give Attorney General unprecedented new powers to fight the war on drugs. So now you have people in the Senate trying to increase federal power over drugs again. If the last, whatever it is, 40, 50 years of the war on drugs hasn't been a disaster enough, now they want to double down and give them more power. Again, this peaceful coexistence thing. Can we peacefully coexist with her? With Feinstein? I don't see how this happens. I don't see how we can. It is time to have an adult, a serious conversation about secession. Because honestly, folks, there is no common ground. They are not seeking common ground. They're not looking for ways that we can have liberty and less of their intrusion. They're looking for more ways to intrude every day. And I'm going to go back to this article I talked about the other day from the Mises Institute, the problem with government licensing schemes. I'll just go medical licensing. I don't know. Do they have more licensing? Government. Okay. Well, do we have liberty? Are we free? Can you go and hunt without getting government's permission? Can you drive your car without government's permission? Oh, they'll say, well, it's for safety. No, it's not. They're separating you from your money. How much does it cost you to renew your license every 3 years or whatever it is? Or because some states have quite a few years. How much do they charge you? How much do they charge you to allow you to have a car that's on the road? How much does that license plate cost you every year? Think that doctor can practice medicine without getting government's permission? That nurse? That paramedic? I was a paramedic for 12 years. Think I could practice as a paramedic without getting government's permission? The answer is no. I think you can open a business without government's permission. This is liberty. This is what Jefferson spoke of in the Declaration of Independence. This is what they fought for. This is what they wanted. Government ruling your life. That's where they left. They had a king. We have an elected king now. Heck. I never looked this up. I have to find it. I'm gonna share it. But if someone finds out this is false, I saw a quote posted. Believe it or not, it was on a wall at work. And Suzanne, maybe you can figure out who this was before I tell everyone who it was. And I didn't write it down. But it said, if the president does it, it's not illegal. Do you have any idea who said that, Suzanne? Are you listening, or are you getting your coffee?
No, I'm listening, but you caught me off guard. I'm not sure who said that.
Well, it was a quote, and it was posted at work. It literally did say, if the president did it, it is not illegal. And that was our president, Richard Nixon.
Okay.
So, I mean, so this isn't something new. This whole mindset's been going on for a long time. That's back in the 60s and 70s.
Well, what we're seeing also is an acceptance across the board that I come into this all the time when I go on AM talk shows. Congress can essentially do whatever it wants. The federal government has supremacy over the states. So any state law that conflicts with federal law is unconstitutional. People have it completely reversed.
Right. But the whole notion is that they think that the Constitution is a limiting document on the states, which is absolutely okay. That's absolutely absurd. Who created the federal government? The states. The states entered into a contract, a compact, as they called it in their day, a contract between the states. They created an agent to act on their behalf. So how then is the agent limiting the parties to the contract? Because it's not in the contract. There is no veto power over the states in the contract. The federal courts weren't given a veto power over the state laws. Yet, that's what we live under today. And people will defend it tooth and nail. If you question this Constitution, people will defend it tooth and nail. And has it protected us? Has it protected the people from the government? No, it's been turned around on its head. And that's precisely what Patrick Henry, George Mason, Robert Yates, Governor Clinton of New York, that's what all those anti-federalists, so-called anti-federalists, told us was going to happen. That it would be turned around on the people, the states and the people, and it would destroy the states. And has it? Who was more truthful? Again, going back to our conversation last show, who was more truthful? The actual Federalists, Patrick Henry, and all the rest I just spoke of a moment ago, or the nationalists, who were called Federalists, nationalists like Madison and Hamilton. I mean, look at what we're living today. It is impossible to say that what Madison and Hamilton and others said in the Federalist Papers was 100% true. Because it didn't limit them. It didn't limit the general government. Heck, it didn't limit it almost within a couple years of its ratification and implementation. George Washington was sending federal troops into Pennsylvania to put down people that were protesting a whiskey tax. It didn't even last 6 years, 7 years, and they were breaking the contract. Heck, you had Adams with the Alien and Sedition Act and the Alien and Sedition Act. Completely unconstitutional because, heck, that's what Madison and Jefferson said, that it was unconstitutional. Because what? The limiting Bill of Rights that put a limit on the general government's ability to squash your right to free expression. And it's not a right given to you by the government. It's a natural right. It's inherent in you. You have a right to free expression. You have a right to worship as you see fit. Those are natural rights. You have a right to self-preservation, and firearms is the avenue through which we do self-preservation. These are natural rights. They're not given to you by the contract, by the document. You had them before the document ever existed. And you know what? Even if we go into full-on tyranny, they still exist. They're inside of you. Government may deny you the ability to exercise them, but you still have them. As a human being, they are in you. Stop begging government to give you something that you have naturally. By giving them that power, you give them the power to take it away from you. All right, I have about a 2-minute break. I'm going to take a quick break so I can reset. I have a couple more articles, and then I will stop the show and get ready for Suzanne's show. So this is the Cerberus Radio Network. This is the Paradigm Shift, and I'm Jeff Johnson. Thank you for listening. Defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny. And here is the joys of producing while you're doing your show.
Time. I'm pretty sure what's killing the crops is this Brawndo stuff.
The Brawndo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops?
Yes.
Water? Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brawndo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Okay, look. The plants aren't growing. So I'm pretty sure that the Brawndo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Oh, well, I've never seen no plants grow out of no toilet.
Hey, that's good. You sure you ain't the smartest guy in the world?
Yeah.
Okay, look, you want to solve this problem. I want to get my pardon, so why don't we just try it, okay? And not worry about what plants crave.
Brawndo's got what plants crave.
Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brawndo.
Yeah, but why do they use them to make Brawndo?
Because Brawndo's got electrolytes.
Suzanne Sherman, shooting straight on everything from prepping to politics. The Wasatch Report, every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, on the Cerberus Radio Network. Cerberus Radio Network, protecting liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.
Oh, sorry about that. Got a phone call during the break. Imagine that. Almost didn't make it back. All right. So we have about 5 minutes. I'm not going to get too much into immigration, but I am going to talk. Where's that? What's that? Okay. Yep. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about immigration. I'm not going to get into it too big, but here we are. We're in the middle of this big immigration debate. The left wants open borders. And we've talked at length about what the solution is. And the solution to this all is stop putting incentives there for people to break our laws. Because that's what we have. Break our laws, come in here, we'll give you free food, free housing, free education, free medical care. Why are they coming? Not to work, because there's free stuff to be had. They might work, but then you see stories where they're sending billions of money back to their home countries, to their families there. So, what is this all about? You know, in the end, this is about voters. The more people that are dependent on government get their stuff, their free stuff from government, the more these people continue to have their hold and have their socialist hold on the rest of us. And the more money they'll need to steal from us, because quite honestly, they're already 21 trillion in debt, heading towards 22. And they aren't slowing down their spending. They keep doubling down on it. So this year, the omnibus bill is going to add another $1.4 trillion to the debt. But where are they going to get this money? I mean, eventually someone's going to say, well, we got 30 trillion, 40 trillion in debt. Someone's got to pay this back. So anyway, here's another story. Another illegal immigrant story. If you Google drunk driving, illegals drunk driving, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of stories. You'll find stories. You find Google illegal immigrants murder somebody. You'll find hundreds and hundreds of stories. They're not when they come here and they're breaking a law once. Do you think they care about the rest of our laws? I'm thinking not. All right. The headline on this story will pretty much tell the whole story. Widow slams 2-year sentence for illegal immigrant who killed husband and 2 children. Tommy Lauren, I'm sick. So sick of a widow whose husband and 2 youngest children were killed by an illegal immigrant is fighting to see stricter punishment for the killer, who got only 2 years in prison. Daniel and I talked a little bit about this story the other night, but wanted to come back to it because I only have a few minutes left. I really can't get into any other subjects right now. We'll talk a little bit about immigration. Courtney Hacking's husband, Peter, 4-year-old daughter, Ellie, and 20-month-old son, Grayson, died instantly when an illegal immigrant without a driver's license drove head-on into their car on March 31st, 2016. This is a newer story, but she's now fighting for stricter laws. Margarito Cuerto Rosales pled guilty last week and was sentenced to 2 years. How do you look at someone and say, you killed 3 people, 2 years is all, Hacking said. Saying she feels the justice system failed her. And it did. And the justice system failed, what was her name? And I think it was in San Francisco that was shot by the illegal alien. They found him not guilty. He murdered somebody, and he walked away.
That was Kate Steinle.
Steinle, thank you. I thought it was, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is the way the DA charged that case made it impossible to get a conviction. They did not want this guy convicted, and the the public defender, they knew that they got to walk. So the DA was actually acting, doing the defense's job for them.
Right, and so here we have a guy that kills 3 people, and I guarantee you, I can guarantee you, working where I work, that there are people, American citizens, if you will, that are in the prison system in the state where I work that are in for vehicular homicide or vehicular manslaughter that are doing far more time than 2 years. Guarantee it. Yet, this illegal alien is going to walk out with 2 years. You know what that actually means? In a year, he'll probably be out. He'll probably serve 1 of 2. But we need more of these people here. Again, here's where, okay. See, here's the problem with the federal government doing something it shouldn't be doing. Incentivizing people to come here illegally by forcing states to pay benefits. Number 1, the general government has no authority over immigration. Number 2, it has no authority over the states to force them to pay people that are breaking their laws. Find it in the Constitution where the federal government has the authority to tell the states they must provide all these benefits to people that are coming here that are not citizens, that are not asked to be there by the state because the states are in charge of immigration. They have the right to set their rules for alien friends that they wish to have in their states. And again, well, you talked about it before. If California desires all these immigrants there, that's fine. That is federalism. They can ask for as many as they want to come in. What they can ask for is the other 49 states to pay for the benefits for those people that they invite in. And the other states are not obligated to take those people into their state and then pay them their benefits. That's federalism. All right, I have to wrap this up. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in just about 10 minutes with Suzanne's show. I know she has at least 1 guest coming on. I think we might have 2. I'll let her introduce those folks to you after we get set up again. People, don't be discouraged. Keep telling people about the principles, the revolutionary principles of 1776. Liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We need to start getting people to understand the difference between that and socialism we have today. This is the Paradigm Shift, only on the Cerberus Radio Network, defending liberty and freedom from the flames of tyranny.